The Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, our domestic federal national police force, has come out, and they had a whole memo that has been leaked by the Richmond FBI, an entire memo titled this: Interest of Racially or Ethnically Motivated Violent Extremists in Radical Traditionalist Catholic Ideology almost certainly presents new mitigation opportunities. The document was published by former FBI agent Kyle Seraphin, who obtained it from a whistleblower. God bless this whistleblower for leaking it. So, to describe traditionalist Catholics as terrorists in waiting, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI document, relied on assessments from the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center. That's the left-wing group whose entire reason for existence is to slander as many conservative groups as it can as hate groups and domestic terrorists. The article also cites an article from the left-wing group Salon.com. A major piece of evidence that traditional Catholics are radical, according to the document, is the, quote, increase in hostility towards abortion rights advocates on social media prior to the Dobbs decision. So here is the National Police Force, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, that is writing a memo that they might have to mitigate people of faith. Now, I am not a Catholic. I'm not a traditional Catholic. I'm an evangelical Protestant, Bible-believing Christian. I have huge respect for Catholics, especially traditional Catholics. Some of my closest friends are Catholics. Some of my colleagues, Jack Posobiec, Catholic. What is really going on here? This is not about Catholicism. This is not about traditional Catholics. What's really going on here is a trend, a pattern, and a theme to go after the faithful. And they need to do this. You see, God, faith, and community are local and decentralized. Strong, decentralized communities who have freedom of speech, freedom of inquiry, and free decision-making capacity or agency cannot be governed by tyrants. It's very hard to govern and to control the decentralized. A local church, a local parish, a local community becomes harder to control. Deploying the shock troops, the FBI, to potentially spy on, monitor, and surveil or infiltrate Catholic Mass, it's not just a violation of the Constitution, but we know the government doesn't care about the Constitution. It goes to show who they really deem to be the threat in our country. Is the threat the LGBTQ groups that are storming capitals? Well, storming might be a little bit, I guess it is storming. Flooding the Capitol in Oklahoma, which that same behavior they said was domestic terrorism and an insurrection. Christianity, taking your Christianity seriously, is a threat to totalitarianism. If every single day you go through a practice, you go through a set of rituals where you acknowledge that there is a higher power, if you acknowledge Genesis 1:1, you are a threat to the regime. If you acknowledge very simply, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. If you actually believe that, then all of a sudden, by definition, it will be harder for you to accept tyranny. Every major totalitarian government needed to make people question Genesis 1:1. Now, you might have all sorts of different philosophical or religious beliefs in our audience, but you must acknowledge in some way, shape, or form, even if you don't believe Genesis 1:1, at least I want you to believe and be honest with yourself. If a society ceases to believe that, what are the implications of that? You see, secular totalitarianism necessitates people that do not have faith-filled communities. This is the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, that is now potentially going to spy on Catholics. Now, they say, oh, well, we've pulled the memo, and we're no longer going to honor this. So the FBI has retracted the document, but look, they're not sorry because of what they wrote. They retracted it because they got caught. One other thing about this document that's very telling is how routine it looks. It's not one proposal or just one person where they say, hey, I think these Catholics are a problem, we should go after them. The document claims to be based on local sources and liaison reporting. The FBI is already monitoring Catholics, and this guy just wrote it up. And I have to wonder, is the FBI currently monitoring Jack Hibbs? My pastor, Rob McCoy? Is the FBI currently monitoring other pastors across the country? How many other pastors, how many other members of the faith community are they monitoring? Are they monitoring me and this program? Almost assuredly, almost a guarantee. Are they trying to infiltrate churches? How do you reconcile this with religious liberty and religious freedom? Look, the FBI can't find enough real terrorists. There is a supply and demand problem with terrorists in our country. The same issue with supply and demand with racism. You have all these institutions that are designed to try to find racism, and there is so little racism. It is so rare, it is so hard to find, that you have to actually fake your own hate crimes to be able to satisfy the appetite and satisfy the demand to try to justify the belief that America is a racist country, which of course we are not. The same thing is now with terrorism. The entire infrastructure that was set up post 9/11 by Lady Graham and by Republicans and many other people to spy on Americans, create the Patriot Act and FISA courts. It turns out that America is actually a pretty decent country and a non-terroristic country at that. It turns out that, but you got to give something for these people to do. You got to give them some work. So what do you tell the FBI to go do? Go find the terrorists. Well, you got to keep on diving deeper. Well, I guess the traditional Catholics, might be terrorists because they go and pray the rosary, and that is actually something that they cited in their documents. Last August, The Atlantic labeled the rosary as an extremist symbol. We laughed at it and we said, oh, that's insane and that's nonsense. But then the FBI took that article and they cited it as evidence to then go and target Catholics. This is a critical ingredient to trying to turn America into a totalitarian country. And isn't it amazing? The president says he's Catholic. The president currently says he is Catholic, and maybe he is, maybe he is not. I'll let fellow, not my fellow Catholics, but my friends that are Catholics interpret that a president who says he's Catholic, his FBI is doing this. Has Joe Biden faced a single question on this topic? Joe Biden, the Catholic? Has he faced a single question on this?